Welcome to Middle East Briefing. The content of the briefing includes China's influence in the Middle East and its limitations. UN's top court hears key case on Israeli occupation. Hamas leader hiding in Gaza, but killing him risks hostages, officials say. What Moody's UAE trip means for IMEC. Who will call me dad? Tears of Gaza father who lost 103 relatives. China's influence in the Middle East and its limitations. Diplomat. China's influence in the Middle East is often portrayed in binary narratives, with some overstating its clout and others underestimating its leverage. The reality is that China's capabilities in the region are tempered by constraints. While China has a significant regional footprint, including being the largest importer of oil from the Middle East, its influence is not unlimited. China's trade with the Middle East has grown significantly, but it still relies on countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE for most of its oil imports, which gives the U.S. substantial influence over these key partners. China's lack of regional hard power projection capabilities also limits its ability to provide security for its interests in the Middle East. China's naval presence in the region is modest, and it has so far not taken substantive action against attacks by Houthi rebels on international shipping. China's concerns about securing vital maritime choke points, such as the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal, play into the advantage of many Middle Eastern countries, which have secured investment deals with China and attracted Chinese infrastructure projects. Despite China's growing influence in the Middle East, its engagement is cautious and measured. China will continue to pursue low-risk opportunities to undermine the U.S. and its allies while avoiding actions that could harm its relations with local players or embroil it in the region's conflicts. China will also continue to cultivate asymmetric advantages through trade, infrastructure, and technology cooperation. It is important for policymakers to view China's involvement in the Middle East with a nuanced perspective and avoid formulating unsound policies based on faulty assumptions. UN's top court hears key case on Israeli occupation. BBC. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, is hearing final arguments in a case challenging Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. The case, initiated by a UN General Assembly resolution in December 2022, accuses Israel of violating the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. The Palestinian Authority's foreign minister accused Israel of colonialism and apartheid and presented maps illustrating the erosion of Palestinian territory. The UK asked the ICJ not to issue an advisory opinion, and the US requested security assurances be considered in any withdrawal of Israeli forces. Israel declined to participate in the hearings. Hamas leader hiding in Gaza, but killing him risks hostages, officials say. Washington Post. The Israeli military is confident that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, the alleged architect of the October 7 attacks, is hiding inside a labyrinthine network of tunnels beneath southern Gaza. But he is surrounded by a human shield of hostages intended to deter an operation to capture or kill him, frustrating Israel's efforts to dismantle the terrorist organization and bring the more than 4-month-long war to a close. What Moody's UAE trip means for IMEC. Diplomat. India's plans to establish the India-Middle East-Europe Corridor, IMEC, face several challenges that may undermine its success and damage India's relationships with other regional partners. The corridor aims to transport goods from the west coast of India to Europe via ports on the Persian Gulf, overland links on the Arabian Peninsula, and Israeli harbors on the Mediterranean. However, the route faces security concerns, especially in the Gulf of Oman and the eastern Mediterranean, where there is a risk of Iranian attacks on Israeli shipping interests. In addition, political tensions between IMEC participants, such as Israel and Jordan, and economic competition between the UAE and Saudi Arabia, also pose threats to the project. Furthermore, the ongoing crisis in the Red Sea, which has led to a decline in shipping volumes, has created an opportunity for IMEC to serve as an alternative route, but also adds to the challenges faced by the project. Who will call me dad? Tears of Gaza father who lost 103 relatives. BBC. Ahmad Al-Ghufari, a construction worker in Tel Aviv, missed the airstrike that killed 103 of his relatives in Gaza City in December. He was unable to return to his family due to the war and the Israeli blockade. He spoke to his wife, Shireen, as the attack took place and said that she knew she would die. Ahmad's wife and 3 young daughters were killed in the attack, along with his mother, 4 brothers and their families, and dozens of aunts, uncles and cousins. Over 2 months later, some of their bodies are still trapped under the rubble. Ahmad's relatives have been trying to piece together what happened from the accounts of surviving relatives and neighbors. They say that a missile first struck the entrance to the family's house and then a fighter jet hit the building where they had taken shelter. Ahmad, unable to hold his children's bodies or attend their burials, still speaks of them in the present tense. He asks, "What did I do to be deprived of my mum, my wife, my children and my brothers? They were all civilians." What to know about Palestinian Authority government resignation? Washington Post. The Palestinian Authority is undergoing a shakeup after President Mahmoud Abbas accepted the resignation of his prime minister and cabinet. The Palestinian Authority was set up as part of the 1993 Oslo Accords and was designed to be an interim body. However, decades of negotiations have failed to achieve peace or establish a Palestinian state, and the authority has struggled to operate under Israeli occupation. The authority has limited governing powers in parts of the Palestinian territories and is widely viewed as corrupt and ineffective. The resignation of the cabinet could pave the way for the establishment of a technocratic government and a new empowered prime minister to work alongside Abbas. Palestinian PM resigns over new Gaza reality. BBC. Palestinian Authority, PA, Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh and his government have resigned as they believe that new arrangements are needed to reflect the emerging reality in the Gaza Strip. The move could pave the way for a technocratic government. President Mahmoud Abbas accepted the decision, which comes as the U.S. pressures the PA to reform so it can govern Gaza after the Israel-Hamas war ends. Last week, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presented a vision for the territory that made no mention of any role for the PA. The Palestinians' new Prime Minister faces a nightmare. Economist. The Palestinian Authority is facing a number of challenges as it seeks to form a new government. The PA relies on Israel to collect taxes on its behalf, which make up 64% of its total revenue. However, in October, Israel's far-right finance minister decided to withhold much of this cash, causing the PA to be unable to pay public sector salaries on time and in full. The PA is also facing difficulties due to Israel's ban on most Palestinian workers entering its territory since the October 7 massacre, leaving more than 20% of the West Bank's labor force unemployed. Furthermore, the PA's president, Mahmoud Abbas, has become increasingly autocratic, repeatedly postponing elections and ruling by decree. The PA has therefore lost control of security in key cities and has been crippled by strikes. The PA's leaders are now under pressure to form a new government that can enact meaningful reforms and restore the PA's role in Gaza, which it ruled until Hamas expelled it in 2007. However, there are doubts over whether the new government will be able to achieve this. UK PM Sunak slams Tory attack on London mayor, denies Islamophobia claims. South China Morning Post. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has condemned a Conservative lawmaker for claiming that the mayor of London is controlled by Islamists. Sunak denied that his party tolerates anti-Muslim prejudice and stated that the comments made by Lee Anderson were wrong and unacceptable. Anderson has been suspended from the Conservative Party group in Parliament and will sit as an independent unless he joins another party. The comments come amid tensions over the Israel-Gaza war and accusations that the Conservatives are deliberately raising tensions in an election year. Israel-Hamas war, Netanyahu says Israeli forces will push into Rafah despite protests over their assault in Gaza. Yahoo! Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israeli forces will push into the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah with or without a temporary ceasefire agreement. It has to be done, Netanyahu said on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday. Because total victory is our goal, and total victory is within reach. The Prime Minister's comments come amid talks to pause fighting in the war that began on October 7, when Israeli officials say Hamas militants killed 1,200 people and took hundreds of others hostage. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 Doctor here, coming to you from the fascinating world of 6 degrees. Today, we've covered a range of news topics, from China's influence in the Middle East to the ongoing conflicts and political changes in the region. Let's dive into the analysis and see what we can uncover. First, we discussed China's influence in the Middle East. While China has certainly made significant inroads, especially as the largest importer of oil from the region, its influence is not without limitations. China still relies on key partners like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE for most of its oil imports, giving the US substantial influence over these countries. Additionally, China lacks regional hard power projection capabilities, which limits its ability to provide security for its interests. However, China continues to pursue low-risk opportunities to undermine the US and its allies while cultivating asymmetric advantages through trade and infrastructure projects. We then turned our attention to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, hearing on Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. This case, initiated by a UN General Assembly resolution, accuses Israel of violating the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. The UK requested the ICJ not to issue an advisory opinion, and the US emphasized the importance of considering security assurances in any withdrawal of Israeli forces. Israel declined to participate in the hearings. This case highlights the ongoing tensions and complexities surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Next, we discuss the Israeli military's efforts to capture or kill Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who is hiding in Gaza. The Israeli military believes Sinwar is surrounded by a human shield of hostages, making it challenging to dismantle Hamas and bring an end to the war. This situation underscores the difficulties faced by Israel in its fight against terrorism and the complexities of the conflict. We also explored India's plans to establish the India-Middle East-Europe Corridor, IMEC, and the challenges it faces. Security concerns in the Gulf of Oman and the Eastern Mediterranean, political tensions between IMEC participants, and economic competition between regional powers pose threats to the project. However, the ongoing crisis in the Red Sea presents an opportunity for IMEC to serve as an alternative route. Moving on, we heard the heartbreaking story of Ahmad Al-Ghufari, a construction worker in Tel Aviv, who lost 103 relatives in an airstrike in Gaza City. Ahmad was unable to return to his family due to the war and the Israeli blockade. This tragic story highlights the devastating impact of the conflict on innocent civilians and the urgent need for a resolution. Shifting our focus, we discuss the resignation of the Palestinian Authority's prime minister and cabinet and the potential establishment of a technocratic government. The Palestinian Authority has long struggled to operate under Israeli occupation and is widely viewed as corrupt and ineffective. This shakeup could pave the way for meaningful reforms and a new empowered prime minister to work alongside President Mahmoud Abbas. Lastly, we touched on the controversy surrounding a conservative lawmaker's claim that the mayor of London is controlled by Islamists. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak condemned the comments, denying that his party tolerates anti-Muslim prejudice. These remarks come at a time of heightened tensions over the Israel-Gaza war. Well, that's all the news for today, folks. I hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Remember, these stories are just a snapshot of the complex world we live in. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions. What are your perspectives on these issues? I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.